Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us for Face the State today. I'm Tracy Townsend. This week, President Biden spent some time in the Buckeye State, specifically Northeast Ohio. In Cleveland, the president covered a variety of topics, ranging from intel building in Licking County to the deadly police shooting of an Akron man. We'll start with the reason the White House made Ohio the heart of his presidential visit. As 10 TV's Andrew Kinsey shows us, it's all about the economy.
Hello, Cleveland.
President Joe Biden back in the Buckeye State Wednesday, using the rock and roll city as a backdrop for his plans to shore up a rocky economy.
And when the middle class does well, everybody does well.
His visit comes as the country faces several financial challenges, from the impact of a global pandemic, the war in Ukraine, to the global inflation directly impacting millions of Americans and their savings.
We turned a promise broken into a promise kept. It matters to workers. It matters to their families. It matters to the country. You all remember what the economy was like when I was elected, a country in a pandemic with no real plans how to get out of it.
The president pushing his administration's work to build up the economy, which includes money in the American Rescue Plan and fixing pension problems, helping roughly 2 million workers and retirees avoid benefit cuts, impacting roughly 100,000 Ohioans.
Motor employee plans will remain solvent for decades and come at least until guaranteed till 2051. Those retirees who lost their benefits will have them restored retroactively.
Without this government aid, the Biden administration says the future of the roughly 200 pension plans receiving assistance was in jeopardy, leaving workers and retirees without full benefits, struggling to pay for housing, food, and other essentials.
There's no other place I want to be than right here with the workers in this room and the workers that build America. I see you, I hear you, and I'll always have your back, I promise. God bless you, and may God protect our troops.
The American Rescue Plan, which passed last March, has several layers to it, including assistance to struggling businesses for their pensions. Reporting in Cleveland, Andrew Kinsey, 10 TV News.
U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown was there for the president's visit and quite emotional when talking about the pension issue Andrew just mentioned.
I remember the first time I heard about the pension issue. It was 2011. I was speaking with labor attorney Sandy McNair in Cleveland, who was representing iron workers and grocery store workers in those days. Workers and retirees and businesses knew the situation was getting worse, but there was no movement. There were no rallies. There were no champions in Washington to take up that cause. But the people in this room, the people in this room changed that. And I can look at person after person and pick people out and see what you did and watch you walk the halls of Washington. And because of you, because the people in this room, we changed that. We passed the Butch-Lewis Act, 50-49 in the Senate.
Hours before the president even landed in Cleveland, the Ohio Republican Party released a statement on the visit saying Tim Ryan and Nan Whaley are now desperate to hide from Joe Biden and all the very failures they supported, including skyrocketing gas prices, real wages falling, and soaring inflation that are crushing Ohio working families. Again, that statement from the Republican Party here in our state. We did make contact requesting interviews from Whaley, from the Republican Party, and from Tim Ryan. We did not get a response. You can listen to the president's full speech at 10tv.com. President Biden also addressed the recent deadly police shooting in Akron that captured national attention and outrage.
I want to make one serious comment about the shooting and the death of Jayland Walker. The Justice Department and Civil Rights Division of the FBI field office in Akron, Ohio, and the local U.S. Attorney's Office are closely monitoring and reviewing what happened. And the FBI continues to coordinate with state and local partners to provide resources and specialized skill. If the evidence reveals potential violations of federal criminal statutes, the Justice Department will take the appropriate action.
Before we get to Ohio political leaders' reaction to the shooting, 10 TV's Lindsay Mills walks us through the details of what happened.
Officers run towards a car as it moves slowly over the sidewalk. The passenger door opens and you can see Jayland Walker wearing a mask get out and run away from the car. Officers start running. The officers begin firing at Walker. We're stopping the videos before they show Walker fall to the ground out of respect for his family. In all 13 videos, the 8 officers can be heard firing shots for at least 6 seconds. Authorities confirm Walker was unarmed at the time he was shot. Akron police say they recovered this gun, a loaded magazine, and a gold ring from the car he was in. The police chief said officers were on heightened alert when responding to the attempted traffic stop, then pursuit, because they believe a shot was fired from the vehicle Walker was driving.
The ODOT camera captures what we believe to be a muzzle flash coming out of the car. Again, BCI will be determining whether or not that in fact is the case.
Lindsay Mills, 10 TV News.
What's next in the investigation? Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost posted a video online detailing what BCI needs to do.
Each investigation begins with a thorough documentation of the crime scene. BCI methodically collects all the evidence at the scene. In this case, that work is largely completed. The evidence will be processed at BCI's crime lab. The investigation is conducted by expert personnel. This is the 29th officer-involved shooting that BCI has conducted just this year.
On Monday, hundreds packed the State House lawn and the streets of downtown Columbus calling for justice for Jayland Walker. Walker's family has asked for peace with any and every protest or rally that takes place.
I'm trying to think from both sides, how were the police feeling, and, why was that an instinct, and I just can't bring myself to find any reason to do that to somebody. I wonder what would happen if it were a white man.
And the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty, who represents the 3rd U.S. Congressional District, is calling for more action on police reform following the deadly shooting. The Congresswoman sent this statement to our newsroom saying, in part, far too many black people in America are killed at the hands of police during alleged traffic violations, and we cannot remain silent. This is not an acceptable outcome, and we can no longer afford to be merely outraged and heartbroken. Again, a statement from Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. She went on to extend her condolences to Walker's friends and family. Governor Mike DeWine also commented on the Akron police shooting investigation.
Hearts go out to the family, and this is a process that the Attorney General's office is going through and doing this investigation. I think it is, this is the process that we envisioned, that there would be a separate entity, a separate agency that would be doing the investigation. I think that helps people feel better about it, and it's the appearance of an impartial examination of this is very, very important. These things take time. They take longer than we would want.
The governor made that statement during a news conference this week detailing a new way to help solve crimes in Ohio. It centers around a new database, which is also supposed to make it easier for gun store owners to track who is purchasing firearms. 10 TV's Kiana Dyches explains how it works.
When it comes to solving crime, every second counts.
Time is of the essence.
And also sharing information. Ohio is now investing nearly $5 million in an online warrant tracking system.
It is free and easy to our friends in local government to use. It's state funded and locally operated.
The Franklin County Sheriff's Office says they could see an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 unserved warrants at any given time.
Sometimes when you would bring people into custody trying to verify whether that warrant is still valid, could take some time. And so sometimes you would keep people longer than you should.
The new electronic system aims to change that by simplifying the way warrants and protection orders are uploaded to state and national databases.
Not only is it free, but it makes 5 times as efficient used to take 1 hour. Now you can do 5 times that work in 1 hour with this system.
Time is not the only challenge that comes with filing warrants with pen and paper. Some say it also puts officers at a disadvantage.
An officer could be stopping somebody unwitting to the fact that they were wanted for another crime. And so they might have some interaction. Maybe there was a danger posed there. And maybe they even let this person go because they didn't know that they had an active arrest warrant.
They say processing warrants faster could also improve the accuracy of background checks. That could benefit gun store owners.
Information about someone that is relevant to whether or not they are a danger to themselves and whether they are a danger to the public is relevant to whether or not they can walk in and buy a gun.
The Meigs County Sheriff is already using the system. He says it's working in his county.
We want to make sure that the people that's getting their hands on these guns or firearms that's buying them, that there's not something slipping through a crack there that could have been taken care of by this.
Coming soon, a Senate bill back in the spotlight. Why an Ohio state senator wants to allow women to sue after an unintended pregnancy.
I'm scared to start a family, so I don't know what's going to happen to me if I have to lay on the table and bleed out before a doctor says it's okay to save my life. So that's where I'm here.
This week, women like the one you just heard from marched around the State House, showing their opposition to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. Since that landmark Supreme Court decision, the heartbeat law went into effect in Ohio. It bans most abortions around 6 weeks or when the first fetal heartbeat is detected. The change sparked several days of protests in our city. Recently, the Indianapolis Star reported that a 10-year-old girl who was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant traveled from Ohio to Indiana to have an abortion. A reporter asked Governor DeWine to respond to that specific situation at a news conference.
This is a horrible, horrible tragedy. For a 10-year-old to be assaulted, a 10-year-old to be raped. As a father, as a grandfather, it's just gut-wrenching to even think about it. I assume that the doctor has reported this. I assume that if she was treated at an emergency room, these are all mandatory reporters. So I'm assuming that this has been referred to Children's Services. I assume it has also been referred to whatever the local law enforcement agency is. We have out there obviously a rapist. We have someone who is dangerous, and we have someone who should be picked up and locked up forever. And again, not knowing all the facts of the case.
The governor said he didn't know more about the case beyond what was reported in the newspaper. He did not comment on Ohio's abortion law and did not take up any follow-up questions after giving that answer we just showed you. State Senator Tina Maraha from Ohio's 3rd District tweeted a response to the same story, saying that's why she introduced Senate Bill 262. It would authorize civil action for causing unintended pregnancy, regardless of the circumstances. The senator says she referred the bill to committee late last year.
Senate Bill 262, for those who are seeking any sort of resources, is for many women and girls here in Ohio that don't have the access anymore to get an abortion. So some of those resources can't be used for travel or even afford the abortion in the first place in the other state. Some circumstances that may be potentially there might be some court costs and attorney fees to seek the litigation. So my bill would also effectively take care of those costs as well that got incurred. But essentially speaking, the cost for a woman to have a birth here in Ohio is over $15,000 alone. So the cost that can be incurred from abortion can help alleviate some of that with this piece of legislation.
The first week of early voting has officially wrapped. You are going to remember this is for the state's August 2nd primary. This date was set after the Ohio Redistricting Commission failed to draw new state legislative maps in time. Franklin County voters will see Ohio House and Senate races on the ballot, plus a few local options. Officials say you are going to want to pay close attention to this primary.
Because this is in August and we're in a lot of schools and churches, and some of those locations cannot accommodate us because of things that are going on, renovations, just all kinds of things, church events. So we've consolidated the number of voting locations. So we're going from 320 to 156. So that's about, it's not quite half, but it's pretty close to 50%. So there's going to be a lot of voters that are voting in temporary locations. And we will be sending out postcard notices to all impacted voters here in the coming weeks.
And 10TV is making it easy for you to find your voting location. Go to 10tv.com/featured links. We are keeping an eye on developments from Intel. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost is calling on Congress to approve $50 billion in incentives for the CHIPS Act. Yost sent this statement to our newsroom. He says, in part, virtually all modern-day products and amenities depend on microchips, so it's absolutely vital that domestic chip production become a national priority. When President Biden was in Ohio this week, he commented on the Intel project, which is contingent on that legislation passing.
I was able to work out something with Intel. They're going to provide for over 7,000 jobs in this state out of Columbus, making computer chips. Well, there's another bill that if we get it passed, and my guys are working like hell to pass it, it'll create another $100 million in investments in Ohio, creating more jobs.
Juul products are back on store shelves, and this comes even as the Food and Drug Administration looks at how to curb vaping use and even ban some products for a short time. 10TV's Lindsay Mills explains what happens next.
These are the tiny little cartridges or pods that contain nicotine for Juul vape devices. You'll remember last month the FDA ordered Juul off the market. One day later, a federal appeals court temporarily blocked the government ban. The product is back on shelves for now. On Tuesday, the FDA said on Twitter it suspended the order pending further scientific review. A statement from Juul Labs following the initial FDA decision says in part, quote, "We have provided sufficient information and data based on high-quality research to address all issues raised by the agency." Juul argues its product is used as a way for smokers to transition away from traditional cigarettes.
We need to invest in understanding what the health effects are of the use of these products immediately and very quickly, because for a long time there just really was no data.
Lauren Wold from the Ohio State University College of Medicine has published research on vaping's harmful effects on the heart and lungs.
If they are totally taken off the market, my fear is that people will start making their own juices. And I know this is actually something, working in a college setting, you know, I have various students that'll tell me that, oh, my friend sells those.
So essentially banning Juul isn't going to solve this problem.
Right.
He says there also needs to be a crackdown on the marketing of all vape products, and the education of harmful effects needs to be amped up. The FDA says it's only suspending the order, not withdrawing it altogether. It's unclear how long its review process will take. Lindsay Mills, 10TV News.
The Ohio State Fair is just weeks away, and up next, we're going to take a look at the security in place and what you can expect as you and your family enjoy the rides, the attractions, and yes, that fair food. Flags at the State House and across Ohio were lowered in honor of the lives taken in Illinois during a shooting at a 4th of July parade. It happened in Highland Park, a suburb of Chicago. The gunman admitted to the rampage and while being on the run considering another shooting just hours before getting arrested. Shootings during public events like that are enough to put everyone on high alert. In just 3 weeks, thousands of people will pour into the gates of the Ohio State Fair. And just like in years past, people will have their bags searched and will need to pass through metal detectors for entrance. The shooting in Illinois has made security at venues like the fair even more of a priority. At the Marion County Fair, people may not know it, but the sheriff's office beefed up its presence. The sheriff's office explained that they plan to add more security prior to the shooting in Illinois at the Ohio State Fair, which will open to the public later this month after COVID closed it over the past 2 years. Plus, the Highway Patrol says it's preparing for more people and will respond with more troopers on foot.
Everywhere that you look while you're at the fair, we want to make sure that you have a trooper that you can see, somebody that you can run to or go over to and communicate with or share a concern with. The troopers are there to assist those who are attending the fair, but also to keep an eye out for anything that may not seem quite right so that we can intervene if we need to.
Mass shootings, the pandemic, the historic Supreme Court rulings, all of these headlines can put mental health top of mind. 10 TV's Ashley Bornanson asked medical experts how you can take care of yourself as people look for ways to cope.
It's like, you can't trust me to make the choice for my own body, but you can trust me to raise a child.
Abigail Houston says the overturn of Roe v. Wade leaves her in fear of what this could mean for her future.
And just like a lot of tears and fear, what do I do? Do I get on birth control even though it was really hard on my body?
Felicity Neal says protesting helps her feel like she's making an impact.
As a woman of color, and then having Roe v. Wade overturned and also Black Lives Matter going on, it just feels like there's no space for me in the world, I guess.
So does Tara Weld, who walks beside her son and family.
As somebody who has had a miscarriage in the past and had to go through a medical abortion, it's really scary to think that there may not be that healthcare out there here locally if anything were to happen with our pregnancy.
All three of these women are going through their own type of trauma. Ariana Gallagher says everyone is handling these recent events differently based on how they relate to the events. She's the associate director of the Star Trauma Recovery Center at OSU Wexner Medical Center.
For a lot of people, it's sort of an existential dread. A lot of questioning, what does this mean?
She recommends speaking to a counselor and exploring ways on what action you can take.
How do you want to spend your energy pushing for the outcomes that you would prefer to see, that you think would make a positive difference in the world?
Your feelings of being unsure is justified, and it is normal.
Faith Walters, a licensed social worker and trauma professional, says signs of trauma experience include trouble falling asleep and waking up, nightmares, disassociation, like spending hours watching TV or playing video games, struggles with emotional regulation.
Like being very angry, angry outbursts, yelling, screaming, throwing things. Sometimes it is just crying, and you cannot identify that one thing that has you so tearful and emotionally upset.
And practicing mindfulness 15 to 20 minutes a day. Abigail Houston says she's taking some of these tips to heart.
I have really good friends. We all try to be very emotionally intuitive and intelligent, and we're like each other's support system.
Walter says mindfulness is just sitting in your emotions for 10 to 15 minutes and acknowledging that they're there, but they won't be there forever, and things will get better day by day. And there's this reminder for you. The new mental health hotline 988 launches nationwide this month. By July 16th, every state must have the hotline up and running. The goal is to help existing hotlines take more calls, provide local assistance, and increase call center coverage to include text and chat, as well as make the number easier to remember. For now, if you or someone you know is struggling, call the number on your screen, 1-800-273-8255. We certainly thank you for joining us today on Face the State, and we wish you a great week.